MacDonald's greatest work was probably his last fantasy, Lilith, a novel spoken of in reverent tones by thinking Christians the world over. Even his own family lightheartedly referred to it as the Revelation of St. George. MacDonald used his stories as a platform to teach us his unique insights into spiritual matters. His son Ronald tells us that his father felt that, although denied a regular church pastorate, God had given him his writing skills to replace it with. He would not waste his gift simply to supply the reader with sentimentality. Instead, he uses the finale of Lilith to make two broad and refined statements. The first is a short discourse on the problems inherent within psychology. Freud and his contemporaries were already building a reputation at the turn of the 20th century that largely took advantage of the materialistic ideology that was by now in full steam. In another decade or so, G.K. Chesterton would be holding well-publicized debates with H.G. Wells, Clarence Darrow, and George Bernard Shaw on topics concerning religious belief. The psychological notion of mystical states of consciousness somehow magically being produced in our minds, by our minds, and without our knowledge of it, brought about dismay to the intellect of MacDonald. It brought scorn and laughter to the mind of Chesterton. But much of the rest of the world seemed ready to accept such a proposal without question, and apparently without much thought. MacDonald addresses this topic while allowing Mr. Vane to have a conversation with himself. Or was it his self that he was conversing with? In moments of doubt, I cry, could God himself create such lovely things as I dreamed? Whence then came thy dream, answers Hope? Out of my dark self, into the light of my consciousness. But whence first into thy dark self, rejoins Hope? My brain was its mother, and the fever in my blood its father. Say rather, suggests Hope, thy brain was the violin whence it issued, and the fever in thy blood the bow that drew it forth. But who made the violin? And who guided the bow across its strings? Say rather, again, who set the songbirds each on its bough in the tree of life, and startled each in its order from its perch? Whence came the fantasia, and whence the life that danced thereto? Didst thou say in the dark of thine own unconscious self, let beauty be, let truth seem, and straightway beauty was, and truth but seemed? Man dreams and desires. God broods and wills and quickens. When a man dreams his own dream, he is the sport of his dream. When another gives it him, that other is able to fulfill it. Let us remember that MacDonald wrote this great work at the turn of that century where spiritualism, along with its comrades, occultism and magic, were being practiced at an all-time high throughout both America and Great Britain. It held a particular attraction for writers of the day, from Tennyson to Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, but also for society at large, from American First Lady Mary Lincoln to British Prime Minister William Gladstone. It was also being examined by some of MacDonald's closest friends, much to his chagrin, such as Lady Cowper Temple and John Ruskin. Lilith's central character, Mr. Vane, traveled to another world through a mirror many years before MacDonald's friend Lewis Carroll would send young Alice on adventures through her looking glass. We must remember that Mr. Vane never initiated the experience, but rather he was drawn into this other world by the power of God. On Lilith's final pages, MacDonald preaches his staunchest warning yet to occultists who would like to knock down the doors that bar us from forbidden worlds rather than wait to be drawn in by God. I have never again sought the mirror. The hand sent me back. I will not go out again by that door. All the days of my appointed time will I wait till my change come. Now and then, when I look around on my books, they seem to waver as if a wind rippled their solid mass and another world were about to break through. Sometimes when I am abroad, a like thing takes place. The heavens and the earth, the trees and the grass appear for a moment to shake as if about to pass away. Then lo, they have settled again into their old familiar face. At times I seem to hear whisperings around me, as if some that love me were talking about me. But when I would distinguish the words, they cease, and all is very still. I know not whether these things rise in my brain or enter it from without. I do not seek them. They come, and I let them go. The mysticism of Mr. Vane, and the only mysticism George MacDonald will allow for in the life of a Christian, is one that comes with a large dose of self-restraint. I wait, asleep or awake, I wait, he says. The kind of spiritual adventure that occurred in the life of Mr. Vane should not be expected by all Christians, nor should those who undergo such an experience be thought of as more blessed than others. MacDonald might also have added the refrain, "Blessed are those who have not seen and yet believed." Among the central attainments that Mr. Vane took from his explorations were patience, self-restraint, and forbearance, the very things he least expected to come away with when he started his journey. If hell is getting what you want until you're sick of it, as C.S Lewis once suggested, perhaps heaven, at least in some measure, is getting what you least expect. Lilith is a marvel of English literature. There's never been anything like it in the least, except for MacDonald's own Phantastes completed some 40 years earlier. And while neither book has ever had the wide following most of the author's fans would have hoped for, it could well be that these books were only meant to be read and comprehended by a select few. MacDonald probably wouldn't have had it any other way.